Yeah, that always seemed wrong to me, even as a kid. Like, like taking, I don't know how if all churches do this, taking 10% of somebody's income, you know what I'm saying? And then basically giving off the idea that the more you give, the more you're going to get into heaven. Mm-hmm. Like, what does God have? Would God need money?
Yeah.
You don't need money, bro. This is something we created, man. We created money as a system of control. That's just basically what it is. Imagine if we didn't have a sophisticated money system, things would kind of be chaotic. That's why I had to develop into what it was. But so now it's just, I just wish that people realize that religion is everything. And when I say that, I mean that everything we do on a day-to-day basis, what we say, what we do, what we preach through our actions and our words is our religion. So even people who define themselves as non-religious, what they really mean is that they're non-denominational and they don't subscribe to any organized religion. But religion just means like what you do on your day-to-day, your daily mantras, your daily activities, your schedule, your routine. That's all religion is. But organized religion is just somebody else giving you that.
Giving it to you. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm definitely, okay, now you're helping me understand who I am by explaining this to me, because I'm definitely non-denominational, but I definitely feel like it's important to have a daily routine and to have morals and standards for yourself. I think that's extremely important,
Yeah. And honestly, like whenever I read the Bible and looking back on like the Bible studies that I did as a kid, I look at it in a very artistic point of view, because I see a lot of metaphors in there. Like that's how I read it now. I don't look at it literally, which is a lot of people's interpretation of the Bible or other holy texts. It's very originalist, literalist, and I feel like that's might be a mistake, because a lot of messages get lost in the sauce that way. So not that I'm like hating on anybody's thing, but this is just how I view it. And that's another thing, like I'm entitled to have my own belief, but it's annoying when other people say that my belief doesn't count. Why? Simply because I might have this, just because I don't have a million people agreeing with exactly what I'm saying, that makes it like less verified, like valid, I should say. Nah, like at the end of the day, like how I view things is it's my life, and it's like to interpret something more poetically makes more sense to me, And once I realized that, I started looking at the Bible like, yo, this is a book of cheat codes right here. It really is. Once you stop taking away all like the restrictive, you gotta live like this type of stuff. Once you look at it at a more way of like, oh, this is really like, it's leading me on a right path, instead of like, you have to follow this or I'll disown you.
Yeah.
Or like, you're going to go to hell type stuff.
Yeah.
Like
that's funny that you like phrase it as cheat codes. That's a good way. Cause I remember when I was little, I used to play Mortal Kombat on Sega. That was like my favorite game.
Nice.
And I found the cheat codes in a magazine. It like gave me the ability to do anything. So it's kind of interesting that you phrase it that way. Cause it's like, you read this and understand this and you have the ability to succeed,
It really feels that way.
Yeah.
Because there's so many lessons and different kind of stories in there that it's so many gems, you know what I'm saying? And to follow them, whether it be closely or from afar, it makes a lot of sense. But when it's the type of thing where it's forced upon you, I see why a lot of people would be turned off to that, because who wants to be told how to live their life? And if you don't live your life that way, that you're going to be eternally damned.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, that's a lot. And I don't agree with that kind of, like an idea of God being like a punishment type person or vengeful.
Yeah.
Like that's just going to push me away from whoever you're trying to paint the picture of God to be.
I've wondered in my life, like certain things, I'm like, is this a punishment?
I mean, if we're going off the idea like of karma, like what you put out into the universe comes back to you, maybe. I mean, I believe like things have a vibration, like whether it's your actions or your words. So who knows? If this, because, there's this thing called gamification, right? And basically it's going throughout life, for the people who may not know, going throughout life, thinking of things as a game so that it makes life easier. So I know that there's a lot of theories about life being like a simulation, and we might just be a computer game, what all this type of stuff. But thinking about it that way, if we all just look at each other as like Sims, then it makes things a little bit easier, I think. So like that helps me like Like if I
That's why they call it Sims.
yeah,
Simulation.
And like what if we're just like Sims and there's another life form
Oh,
playing
God.
us right now?
I used to love Sims, and then like after getting really into it, I'm like, why don't I just live my actual life?
That's another
Like-
thing, bro. Like with video games and stuff.
Yeah.
Like I've liked video games, but
Yeah.
like I'm not a really good video game player. Like I'd rather go do things and
Yeah.
I don't know, fulfill myself another way. Even though I understand it's a good way to blow off steam, but ultimately, like once you turn that game off, none of those accomplishments are real.
When I used to watch I used to do this thing called pokey spying, and it was that I would go out and watch the people on Main Street play Pokemon Go, and I would call it pokey spying. It was like my game of like spying on them, like watching them play and just observing them. And I had like a philosophical reasoning with myself. I was like, they're just doing what I'm doing in a different way. Like, because I overheard this guy being like, man, I didn't get any, I don't even remember how he phrased it. Like, I didn't get many, not kills, because they don't kill.
Right, like you catch.
A catch.
Yeah.
Yeah, he said, I didn't get many catches today. And I'm just like, he's just playing the game of life in a simulation way.
And that's why
I'm not any different. Like how could I say that mine is real and his is fake? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's technically all the same thing. And I'm just like, holy shit. Like in his eyes, like he didn't feed his kids today. Like, but like he didn't catch his goes.
That's another thing when I say when the Bible says God is in all things.
Yeah.
That's kind of the same thing. It's like sometimes I feel like, you know how they say like, does art imitate life or does life imitate art type thing? When you look at video games, let's take something simple like Mario. He's on level 1 and then he's battling all these like monsters. So we could look at that as maybe like our demons that we battle in life. He's collecting coins, the money we collect. Then
Holy shit.
he's like,
it's real.
I'm saying like, okay, is that modeled by looking at life in like a metaphorical way, or is life modeled after things like that?
Oh
And
my God.
are we given video games like that as children so that we're programmed to view life like that
Oh my God.
through that kind of framing?
I never even like.
Wouldn't
thought
it
about
make
that.
sense?
Yeah.
Like, because I mean, look at like we grew up playing video games, like, and how you view life and how you're programmed. It's like that's how you're gonna move. So it's like I don't know. Does art imitate life or does life imitate art?
Wow.
You know, like who knows? And then in those video games, things get harder, and that's how life is. You think
Yeah.
you got to figure it out, and then shit just gets harder. Like,
I remember when I was learning some pieces on the piano, I told my piano teacher that I was like, sometimes I feel like life is like not life. Learning. I told her that learning piano is like playing video games. I was like, the levels get harder and harder, and there's like secret levels and like bonus levels. And she like looked at me like really condescendingly. Not my Cuban piano teacher. For those of my friends who like follow my life and know who I'm talking about, no, not Martha Marchena. A different piano teacher who I will not name their name. Dr. Marchena is amazing. But a different piano teacher that I had, she was like looking at me very condescendingly, like, you fucking idiot. Like, how could you think that piano is like a video game? But like, I felt like that. Like, I felt like it was like trying to, I don't know, like
outdo your last effort, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's how you know that that's one of those people who just kind of, they don't connect the dots.
Yeah.
They don't have, like, a lot of people don't have that kind of mind where they could connect things to other things. And I think that's where like being an artist comes into play, like creating a metaphor. Because what is a metaphor, right? It's just taking a large idea and putting it, you know, just shrinking it so it's easily digestible. You know what I'm saying? That's all it is. So when you're able to connect dots like that, I think it makes things easier because everything's connected. God is in all things. You could think that this subject, like in school, this subject isn't connected to this, but oh wait,
It's all connected.
Math and English and it's all
Math
works
and
together.
science and physical education and
you
art
could-
and everything. It's all the same shit,
You-
like in different
yeah.
forms.
You-
Yeah.
And like you could, it all works together. You put it in a gumbo. It's what you put
Gumbo.
into life. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like it all works. But as you realize, like, yo, all this stuff, it goes together, and it's not exactly the things that you did, but it's the principles you derived from those things that end up being very similar.
Mhm.
You know, like, so that's what I kind of look at. I don't look at the kind of surface things. I try to look at the principle of things.
Mhm.
Because you know, some people, they say like how you do anything is how you do everything. So like for me, that was super true. So if I would have a messy room, things would be messy in my life. But once I had like a clean room, things would just work out better for me. Or if like if I'm working out more, it makes me feel better. So other aspects of my life, I would have more discipline because I have discipline in this one area of my life. So it seeps into other things. So like during times where I was more out of shape, that non-disciplined attitude would seep into other areas of my life.
Yeah.
So it's not about exactly the compartmentalized things, right? Like you being lazy and working out and then also doing school or whatever. It's about the principles that gets applied to other things.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
that's something that's been on my mind lately too, is like I've been getting like trying to go to the gym regularly and take care of my health and eat healthier, and I've been noticing how it's been like a cycle that it's like affecting other areas of my life. That it's like once I put this effort into going to the gym and taking care of my health, like I've noticed my energy is up. Like,
is it right?
My mind feels more clear.
Sharper, right?
Sharper, yeah. So it's like, it's crazy how the mind and the body are so connected. You know what I mean?
Dude, it's literally all connected. Like I remember I was learning, or I heard this study that said the reason why a lot of people are depressed and anxious these days is because of our technology. And why, right? So when you're watching a TV show, it has really fast flashes of frames. Mm-hmm. And I think they're called either delta waves or alpha waves. And what they do to our minds is they put us in a sedated state of mind, right? Mm-hmm. So it literally depresses us. So that's why, people could just sit down and just like zombie out in front of a TV show or a screen, and then that gives us our depressed feelings. So because everybody are like binge watching TV shows, then they wonder why they're so depressed. It's because that just the frame rate, the simple, not even the content of the TV shows we're watching, just the flashing frame rate is putting us in a depressed state. Yeah. And I remember I told this to somebody one time and they kind of disregarded it.
Of course.
Yeah, of course, man. It's like, how people say, oh, you're just thinking too deep about it. Like, it's not that deep. It's like, it is, though. Everything is. So I'm looking at that person and where they were in their life, whether it was like their physical or just how they were feeling and their attitude about life. It made me feel like, okay, like, yeah, that's what it is. Man. Recently, right, I got a stationary bike. 'Cause sometimes I'm like super lazy, but throughout my life, like I remember when I was a teenager, I would go to the YMCA and I would be on the bike for like 30-40 minutes. And that's really what helped me get back in shape during those years, because I had gained a lot of weight early on in high school because I had like a knee injury, right? Mm-hmm. So that helped me get back in shape numerous times in my life. So I was like, you know what? Now being 24, I'm like, I know that this quarantine is going to go on longer and this winter is going to be long.
Oh no.
This is going to be a long winter. I'm not trying to get like chunky again over the winter. I'm trying to get out of this quarantine, whenever that is, and be looking my best self. Like I really just want to commit to that. So I got the stationary bike. I've had it for maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks. Yeah. And what you were saying earlier about it making your mind sharper, having more energy, I definitely feel that, along with like eating better. Like now, instead of maybe like having a bag of chips or whatever, because I like crunchy things, I'll grab an apple. Or instead of having candy, chocolate, I'll have an apple. Yeah. And it's just, things are different. What's
your prediction on the winter? Do you think there's going to be another pandemic? Do you think it's going to get bad again? Or what's your prediction about that? I'm really fucking worried.
I've heard some estimates saying that, okay, right now we're at about 215 to 220 deaths in the United States, right? So they're saying that by January, we might reach 450.
So you think there's going to be like another influx of a lot of deaths and stuff?
I mean, we've been very consistent. It's not as bad as it was back in March and April, but for the past 2 months, if you haven't been following it, it's been 1,000 deaths every single day in the country.
Oh my God.
Either just like slightly under or slightly over.
Do you think we're going to close the shops again? Or do you think there's going to continue at a 25% rate? Like a 25%, what do you call it?
Capacity.
Capacity, yeah.
Man, it depends on how greedy the government is. Because, dude, remember when they were saying that they wanted to open up by Easter? That was April 12th or something.
I knew that was never going to happen. Yeah.
But there were some people, I mean, I think most people, who were saying like, oh, by June we'll be out of this. And I was thinking to myself like, buddy, like, nah, this isn't going nowhere.
I think it's interesting that Donald Trump ended up getting the virus.
More interesting or poetic, knowing our dear leader, like he still, as he got it, he was still downplaying it and telling his constituents and the people who support him that not to be afraid of it, which in itself isn't really a bad message. Like, don't be afraid of it, don't let it control your life.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, that those people were already against like wearing masks because that a lot of people feel like it infringes on their freedoms.
Yeah.
But like, no lesson learned.
I'm very neutral on the whole thing about like not being afraid of it and everything. I'm not afraid of it. I know that's like very naive or very selfish, or like I understand that because I'm young and I'm taking advantage of the fact that I'm young and I don't feel as afraid. Like I understand if people are older in their 50s or 60s or 70s and they have a condition or something like that. But I do feel like there should be a medium ground. I'm okay with wearing a mask. I think I should wear a mask in public. I should wear a mask at the grocery store.
Sure.
I don't feel like it's taking away my freedoms, but I also think there should be a middle ground of like, I think we should protect the people who are at risk, but I also think the people who don't feel at risk or don't feel afraid should have some freedoms. That's just my opinion.
Sure. I mean, I don't think that they've been totally taken away, but I just, like for me, when it's like, I kind of want to stay away from a political topic because I'm a person who is like, I'm very opinionated. You know what I'm saying? And I'll tell you exactly what I think. And it might come off as like, I don't know. It'll come off a certain way but then it goes back to the same thing. Like, okay, if you're entitled to your beliefs, I'm entitled to mine. You know what I'm saying?
I think but I also think one of the reasons I want to start this podcast is because I think it's important to talk about those things, even if you disagree.
We need conversation. And I'm not saying that to say I disagree with you, because I mean, everything you're saying is super reasonable. I just think it's the unreasonable people who are kind of messing it up for a lot of people.
So I understand what you're saying. You think it's like a reasonable perspective, but not everybody has that middle ground perspective. Like some people are too hardcore. Yeah.
Some people, like I know I had a friend who lives like not North New York, but like in a suburban wealthy neighborhood above the boroughs.
Yeah.
That like she would not have her mask on for a second out in public. It'll be like around her chin, and she would go for runs, and obviously wearing the mask while you run is suffocating. So they'd look at her like she was crazy. They would say things to her like, hello, like put your mask on. And if somebody ever said that to me, bro, like thank God, because I'd probably say something slick or like be like, yeah, like shut up. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't like people telling me what to do. I don't think
you should have to wear your mask if you're running away from people, though. That's the thing.
Yeah,
like if I'm at the grocery store, if I'm in a big group of people, I should definitely wear my mask. But if I'm running in a park, like way more than 6 feet away from people, I don't think I should have to wear a mask.
And that's the thing. So like, the point I was trying to get at is that they were like overreacting type stuff.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So like that was uncool.
Yeah.
But where I'm at in Elizabeth, it seems like everybody's kind of on the same type of time. We're like, okay, if you don't wear a mask, like, okay, that's whatever. Do you not like if you're inside an establishment, that's a little bit different. Yeah. But if you're outside at the park, it's like, okay, you're far away from me. Maybe you're not being wise, but like, if I have a mask, it's fine. And also we're outside, blah, blah, blah. But also like my community got hit really hard early on. So I think that people kind of
like changed your perspective a lot.
Changed my perspective. Because in like April, I was seeing people on my street getting taken out by ambulances.
Oh no.
And it was like hell.
See, in my town, we haven't, so maybe I'm a little naive because in my town, like we haven't had much of that here at all. And I know you're more up north where it's like more populated and closer to New York City.
Right.
And the closer to New York City you get, it's going to be more, it's going to be worse and worse up there. But in my town, it's been like pretty chill here.
Right.
So
yeah, it was very real for me early on. Like, I lost a family member to it.
Oh, wow.
My neighbor directly across the street, who I've known for 20 years, passed away from it. He was an old timer, but still, it's like, just because somebody is old, like, I don't like the conversation that people have. It's like, oh, it's mostly getting the old people. It's like, bro, that's a person. Yeah. Like, bro, it doesn't mean that their life is more dispensable just because they're old.
Yeah.
That's messed up. Yeah. But like, I had it. I had it back in April.
Wow.
Yeah, so thankfully you never got it because bro, it was debilitating.
How did you feel?
Luckily, I didn't get like the fever or whatever, but like I had like a mild cough. I was like, like, you know, it was chill, like a chill cough. But the second most debilitating symptom of it was that I could not breathe entirely.
Yeah.
Like, you know how you could just fill your lungs up all the way to the bottom? I had about 20% at the bottom that I couldn't reach. So that was one of those things that I was like, oh, this is crazy.
I think my boyfriend at the time had it last year, because he had all the symptoms. The only symptom he didn't have was like the loss of smell. Like some people have like a loss of smell or taste.
Yeah.
He didn't have that, but he had a fever that was on and off for a few days. Like, because I've heard that you get it and then it goes down and then you get it again. He had that. Like he had a fever and then he didn't have a fever and then he had a fever. And then he couldn't breathe for like a month. So I'm like, that sounded pretty much like the not being able to breathe and then the weird fluctuating fever sounded pretty legit. And he actually went to the hospital. I forced him to go to the hospital because like one day he was like, and he couldn't breathe. And I was like, you're going to the hospital. Like you can't breathe.
That's pretty bad.
But when we went to the hospital, this was right before the pandemic really hit. There was cases, but it wasn't like, you know, I feel like it started March 8th or like around then is March 8th or March 12th or something was when like people were like, no, we have to close things down. But right before that, at the end of February, there was cases, but they didn't take it that seriously. So we were in the hospital at the end of February when they knew about it, but they didn't take it that seriously. So they didn't test him for it. They didn't test him at all for it. They just looked at him and was like, okay, you don't have ammonia, so there's no reason to keep you here.
Right.
But I slept in bed with somebody who I'm pretty sure had it and I didn't get it.
And that's the thing, though. I mean, you could have had it and
I could have had it and not known I had it.
And that's the thing. Even with people who have had it, there's cases where people get it a second time already.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So this whole thing that people say about, oh, your immunity, blah, blah, blah. Even when you have the flu, you get an immunity for a period of time, but then you could get it again. And who knows if you get it harder. Okay, so I was saying that I had the not breathing thing, not 100%. But then what hit me like the last week after that, because it was like the first week, it was like the little cough, and then the not being able to breathe 100% of the way. Then the second week, I could not get out of bed. I didn't have a fever, but one of the symptoms was extreme fatigue.
Wow.
And literally it felt like every single day felt like I had worked out the hardest day the day before.
Oh my God.
So it felt sore. Like on the last day, the Friday, I couldn't lift my arm up off my bed. Like it felt like I was magnetized to my mattress.
Wow.
So, and then me being a young man who eats his vitamins, exercises regularly, has pretty good cardio because I walked every single day. It's like for that to hit me like that, I could only imagine what it could do with somebody who has older or comorbidities, whether they're overweight, they have diabetes, they have a breathing problem, you know, because people like some people just have issues and have medical conditions. Yeah. And so we're just supposed to be like, oh, I'm okay. All the people who won't survive. It's like, it's kind of heartless. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's a good point.
And like with the argument that people say about like, oh, the flu kills people every year too. It's like, bro, this is not the flu.
Yeah, it's not the flu.
Like, just think of it this way, right? So every year the flu season comes around, and in total in the United States, about 40 to 60,000 people pass from the flu.
Yeah.
This is something I was telling my friend yesterday. Why, knowing that flu season comes around, would we not wear masks around each other? So we're just gambling on maybe I'll get it, maybe I won't, when we know being sick for a week or two sucks. Yeah. So we were just going around breathing everybody's air, being inside in the cold. And then so look at it this way. So now we have COVID-19. A lot of people are wearing masks. We're socially distancing. Some people aren't, but I think a lot of people are. And we're conscious of it. And 215,000 people in the United States have died. Yeah. When it's not even winter. Yeah. What does that tell you about this virus?
That it's going to be, in the winter, it's going to be way worse.
That too? And that's way more deadly than flu, than the influenza.
What is it going to be like when people actually get the flu and they're not sure if it's the flu or coronavirus? That's going to be chaotic.
It's going to be chaotic.
Like people are going to be like, I'm sick. Is this the flu? Am I going to die? Like,
there's going to be a lot of panic.
Yeah, because like I know I'm going to get sick at some point with coronavirus or with not coronavirus. Like, it's bound to happen. I'm a human being.
Sure.
Like, and everybody else will too, because like I don't know a single person who doesn't get sick at least once a year with the common cold. Or I mean, I think about the cold, I don't think sneezing is like a main symptom of coronavirus. So I think if you're just like sneezing a lot, you could probably be like, okay, this isn't COVID. But if you're like have a cough or a fever, like how are you gonna know what it is? Like, you know,
that pushed you to get tested, because I mean those are symptoms. And I remember when I was concerned with my father, because he was the one who had the cough first in my house. I was concerned, and I was not messing around, because at that time I had other family members who were in the hospital on respirators and things like this. And that was the uncle who passed away. So I was like, I'm not going to let my dad go out like that. He's in his early 60s, you know? So I called immediately, and based on his symptoms, they wanted to get a test, and it turned out he was positive. So immediately we got the antibiotics that our doctor friend recommended to us, and luckily he made it through. But if I hadn't been like proactive in that way, he may have had to go to the hospital, or even worse, go to the hospital and then pass in the hospital that way. So it's like, me being personally impacted by it, I'm able to see it. I mean, it doesn't take that much for me to be like cautious of things like that, but having those traumatic experiences of like
changes your perspective.
It changes your perspective. And I realized this the other day. You see, you get what I'm saying about like the chatterbox thing. Once you get me talking, I won't stop.
No, it's good though. To be honest, this is the longest podcast I've ever had so far. I usually cut it off within 50 minutes. But I'll probably have to make like 4 episodes out of it.
You got to cut it up into segments and make a playlist.
I'm going to have to make a playlist, because this is like, not that all my conversations were great. I love you all who's been on the podcast in the past, but so far this has been my favorite podcast. Sorry, people. Sorry to my other guests, but this has been my favorite podcast so far, because it's been very open, like talking about different topics. You know,
this is what I love to do. I love talking. That's why like I love making music, but I want to do like, if I want to continue with my podcast and just like either be like a cultural critic, or talk about politics, or just speak on things, because I feel like I have a perspective. Like I said, I'm very opinionated. But like I was saying, right? So in that time, that March, April period, April was a tough month, dude. Me every single day hearing ambulances driving around my neighborhood, bro. Yeah. That is traumatic. And I realized it was traumatic because 2 or 3 nights ago, I started hearing ambulances going by in my neighborhood again, and boom.
So it's like coming back. Yeah.
Yes. I was like, oh my God, it's starting again. And then I realized, oh shit, I have PTSD from this pandemic.
The first time. Yeah, I have to say, like, I haven't been nervous, but I also haven't experienced that, because like, you know, we're somewhat populated in Somerville, but not like Union or Elizabeth.
I'm from Elizabeth, yeah.
Elizabeth is like a lot more populated. Yeah,
hundreds of thousands of people.
I can't say, like, and even in the beginning of this conversation, we were talking about perspectives, like, and how everybody comes from a different perspective. And my perspective, there hasn't been chaos around here. I don't hear ambulances. So for me, I'm like, why the hell would I be scared? Why can't I go to ShopRite? I don't see a fucking ambulance. Like, so it's but in your perspective, it's like totally different, and I can understand that, you know? It's
like, it's not as real. And at the time, I was talking to people on Discord. Do you know Discord?
No.
It's like an app where like a lot of gamers go on, but it was I was with like a bunch of different people, like international people, and we'd all get on like little phone calls through the app and chat, like 9 people deep. And so some of these people were from like Australia, other people were from like just different parts of the country where it's very different from where I grew up. I grew up in Elizabeth, and that's a very it's a city. So I'm a city boy, all that type of stuff, urban environment. That's my perspective throughout the world. That's how I view the world. So I always just understand it through that lens. Other people grew up in rural environments and just different kinds of people, you know, and different kinds of mindsets. And I'm trying to tell them like, yo, this stuff is serious during April, because I was seeing it firsthand. And we know that New York and New Jersey got hit super hard first off, you know, especially North Jersey, because like you said, it was so close to New York. And they were all just like, it'll be fine, blah, blah, blah. Or and I would just express things like, yo, this is like basically the bubonic plague for our lifetime. And they were like, man, it's not that bad. And then I tried to reason with them like, okay, how many people have to die for you to think that? Does it have to be 100,000? This is before it even reached 100,000. I was like 100,000, 200,000, 500,000.
How many deaths have we had so far?
In the world, I think it's definitely surpassed 1 million. And in this country, it's between 215 and 220.
Wow.
And exactly. In just 7 months of this, we've had 215 people die. That's over 2 years of the deaths that the flu causes. So nobody could tell me that this thing isn't serious.
Clearly way worse than the flu.
Way worse.
When does actual flu season start?
I mean, I would just assume in like the late
now,
fall to
right?
winter.
Like it's going to start like soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's going to be pretty chaotic. Yeah, I'm worried.
And yeah, like people, especially for an area like ours that like we actually experience winter, you know, in warmer places in the country, they don't really get it like
That's
we
why
do.
I'm thinking about moving, because like I feel like if this is going to be the future of the world, of our life, I would rather live in a warm environment. Like,
yeah.
Like, I mean, not that warm environments don't get sick, but like I'm going to be scared of the winter from now on.
I mean, sure. Like, I feel like there was a false sense of security during the summertime because, you know, it feels great outside. Everybody's outside. We're warmer. We have this preconception that, you know, viruses don't survive in the warmth, which, I mean, there is a less likelihood that it will survive because apparently the sun kills it. I don't know what
like UV or something.
Something like that. I don't know what the new science is on that, but I think that's still the same. But like, I saw a lot of people being really relaxed without wearing their mask. And I was like, okay, I thought I was being relaxed. Like, it's like when I would see other people in the park with their masks on, I would not have it on. I'm like, we're probably okay. But then when I started seeing other people not doing it, I was like, I'm kind of playing with fire here.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't know what it is. I think that the reasonable people see what's going on and they're like, okay, I'm gonna wear a mask for me, but to also make other people feel okay. But then the people who are like, I don't want them to control our lives. I totally get that perspective. I really do. Because, like, I'm low-key, like, a person who's, like, into conspiracy theory type stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
And, like, I see when the writing is on the wall in terms of, like, okay, they're implementing these things. This is going to be the new normal type stuff. But I know that it's not a hoax. That's the difference.
Oh, it's definitely not a hoax. Like,
and a lot of people believe that. And I mean,
no, it's bullshit.
Doing part to our supreme leader.
Yeah.
You know, like kind of imparting those messaging type
and he
things.
ended up getting it. Like,
that's why, to me, it doesn't look like something that would be like, I mean, they're trying to spin it like that.
Yeah.
I know that somebody in his cabinet was like, you know, he's good to be the president again because he has the experience of having coronavirus. And it's like, bro, you're not trying to flip this into a positive. Bro,
I can understand why my sister thinks it was set up then, because I guess that would make sense. Like, to be someone who's like, well, I've had it. Now I can be like good to go for the next 4 years.
The reason why I wouldn't think that he would do that and why I think he really got it is because he's the type of person who, like, he wants to exude strength at all times.
Yeah, so he wouldn't want to show any.
He wouldn't want to show any weakness, even with.
That's
his
what I
immune
thought
system.
too. I was like, I can't picture him doing that
Yeah.
because I feel like he likes to be like.
Yeah,
like
and
strong.
even basically throughout his whole being sick, he's like, I don't even think I have it anymore. It's like, bro, when you have corona, you have it for 2 to 3 weeks. Like, come on,
Wasn't he like out pretty fast? Like he was out of the hospital pretty fast and.
Yeah, but
good.
when you're the president of the United States, you get top-notch medicine.
That's true.
You know,
that's another thing. Like I thought of too. It was like, yeah, he's the president. So he's probably going to get like the best medical service.
They're gonna give him like the Captain America shit, like you know, all that type of stuff to make him. And he, look, this is the way he expressed. He said that, you know, I feel stronger than I did 20 years ago. Okay, what did they give him? They gave him steroids. No shit, you're gonna feel strong. You're on steroids, like, bro. Like, if I took some steroids, I feel like freaking Limitless. Like, you know that movie. Like, what do you expect? But for him, he's thinking like, oh yeah, we got the cure. COVID is nothing to worry about. So when he expresses that to his,
like, tries to calm people down or whatever.
when he expresses that in his way, he thinks that he's calming people down. But in fact, he's lulling people into a false sense of security because guess what? Almost 300 million of Americans aren't access to those kinds of drugs and that kind of medical service where you have dozens of doctors helping you. Most people don't have health insurance. So it's like, to tell people, don't worry, don't let it dominate your life, don't live in fear is irresponsible. But I mean, you know, what are you going to do?
What's your prediction on who's going to win?
I don't know, man. I know that his base, his constituents, supporters, fans, they have a fervor, you know, they're really passionate. So that goes a long way. Joe Biden, I know that people aren't passionate about him.
Yeah.
Voting, I think that most people will vote for Joe Biden as an anti-Trump vote as opposed to a pro-Biden vote.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I understand.
But based on the things that have happened in the past month and also the past year, just seeing, because I think there are reasonable people in this country who can see clearly, who are saying that how it wasn't handled properly, this situation, and they just want to change.
I mean, we're not in a good place right now. So
even sans the virus, like just like with let's take racial relations, like we're at a place where things look like the 1950s. Like I remember growing up and seeing those videos of the civil rights era. You see like a group of white people pushing like a black dude in a suit, just pushing him like, get out of here. And I'm seeing things like, I think it was months ago where these kids were just like, protesting, holding signs saying Black Lives Matter, things of that sort, and there'd be dudes riding up in Jeeps, like groups of white guys, and just saying like cursing at them. I'm like, yo, this looks like the 50s right now. And that just is an example that goes to show you like in the song Better Days, like it starts off the first line, times change, people don't. Because like I think that, oh man, the past 5 to 4 years has been like a resurgence of that racism. Because racism it's not like, it's an idea, it's an ideology, it's a way of looking at the world, it's a religion. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like for a long time, for the past maybe, let's say 40 to 60 years, it's been becoming more and more unpopular. And so the people who hold those kinds of beliefs, they feel like they've been disenfranchised. You know what I'm saying? Even though like there are people who come off as people who wouldn't be classically known as racist, but who are racist, like subtly. I don't know if you've ever met those types of people, but those are the people who kind of scare me the most because they don't know that they're racist. There's this type of people who are like, yeah, I hate those kinds of people. Like they're outward with it, and it's like, it's more honest. But then there's the type of people who like, they're like, oh, I love everybody, I'm colorblind. But when people say stuff like that, it's like, that's like almost a way to dismiss somebody's racial experience. That's how I view it. I'm colorblind. I know that you're black, but I don't see you as a black person. Okay, so then you're just like denying my identity. Like that's, if you would say I'm colorblind, I don't see that you're white. It's like, but I'm white though, right? And I'm always going to be viewed as a white man, no matter what. It doesn't change just because you don't accept that that's who I am. That way, you're dismissing my experience. All that type of stuff. So it's like with the latest administration. This is exactly what my mom told me not to talk about. Well, I'm not saying anything. Really? My mom doesn't.
You told your mom you were coming here?
Yeah, of course. I gotta tell my mom. So like, what's it called? Yeah, she doesn't like me talking about politics. But this is kind of like the more chill version of me talking about politics. Imagine me with the cameras off and shit. But look, so now they feel like they found somebody who represents them. With the current administration, and it's like, it's very nostalgic. So when somebody says something like "Make America Great Again," it's like, yeah, that was the ideals back in the day. That's just what it was. And from a person's perspective like me, seeing how from the 60s, whether it was JFK trying to help poor people and black people and stuff, or the civil rights era where black people were getting their rights, and also the disabled era, that's underrated and not talked about a lot, but the civil rights stuff also helped disabled people get rights in society because they were very disenfranchised as well. And with what's going on right now, they want America to be great again, meaning they want people to not have those rights that were given. So it's like a thing where somebody's saying that like you're infringing on my rights, but really like I'm trying to give more people rights, but to you, infringing on your rights is like you not being able to discriminate against the people you want to discriminate against. It's a very interesting time, but I mean, to say like who's gonna win, the signs, it feels like the Trump administration is very desperate right now. Because they've made a lot of mistakes. And I mean, back in 2016, the polls were saying, oh, Hillary's going to win. And there was only a few people that were saying, oh, Trump might win. There's a chance.
Crazy. Like, you never know what's going to happen anymore.
I mean, if I'm getting into my conspiracy theory bag, it's almost like the news is like the greatest drama ever created. You hang on it every word, just like somebody's watching a novella. You go back every Sunday to watch the show. People are watching the news every single day. Oh, what did he do again? What are they doing? It's almost like it's like purposely done to keep people watching. It's kind of sick. But I think in any eventuality, like either outcome, there is still civil unrest that's going to erupt in this country. That's almost for certain.
That's what I 100% agree with you. I'm like, no matter what, I'll just tell the world I'm voting for Biden. But I'm almost at a point where it's like, I don't even care. I'm voting for Biden, but I almost don't even care who wins because I feel like no matter what happens, people are going to go crazy.
Yeah, dude. I mean, the FBI in the past 4 to 5 years, they've said the FBI, who, usually leans towards protecting America's image, they've said that the biggest threat to America has been right-wing violence. Nobody really talks about it. You know how, they always try to blame it on outsiders or whatever, that goes. But right-wing violence, so, it's American violence, American domestic violence. And, America's like, that's kind of what they consider original American, is like being a right winger, and being somebody who's more left or liberal is like being like a radical, basically, because you want everybody to have an equal opportunity. Yeah. So I think that if Trump loses, he set the groundwork for the real hardcore cult-like following that he has to just kind of rampage. Yeah. And that's what I'm scared of. And I think if Trump wins, it still emboldens those people to feel like they could do that. Yeah. Because it's like, yeah, we're here. Like I said, it kind of gives them their voice back in a way. Yeah. Even though, I mean, it was never taken. Yeah. It's because I think a lot of people, they feel like, okay, so if I have 3 oranges, right, and you've only had 1 orange your whole life, and then one day somebody takes, well, it's not even, okay, so let me change the analogy. I have 3 oranges, you have 1 orange, and then somebody gives you 2 more oranges. They think, oh, you're taking my 2 oranges by somebody giving you 2 oranges. Nothing's been taken from me, only given to you. But the fact that you have more now and you're on equal footing feels like I'm below you. Because I've always had more, but I've taken for granted the fact that I did. Because you feel in your mind that because of who you are and your identity, that you deserve more. Man, I've been watching this for the past few years and watching it develop, and to me it's so clear who people are. Yeah. Because I mean, how they say like history repeats itself if you don't learn it, things like that. I was always super interested in history and like how the tragedies and genocides of the 20th century happened. And it kind of feels like these are the steps. Yeah. They were baby steps at first, like 4 years ago, but now it's like, now it's really manifesting. Now
these things are actually happening in real life. Like, you know what I mean?
That's because we're always in a constant state of good versus evil. Yeah. Like every single movie or story we've ever read is good versus evil. And that's just what life is.
We are actually going to end the podcast now because this is the longest podcast I've ever done so far. It's been going on for 2.5 hours. That's so we're going to end it here. Yeah. So this has been a lot of fun.
This has been like a podcast.
Yeah. It's been like the real deal podcast. So this is like what I aim for. And right now the camera's lopsided because I got up to go pee and I ruined the camera setting on the way, but this has been a really fun podcast. So before we leave, I want to again let everybody know where they can find him. This is my friend Onnist, and let everybody know where they can find you on your Instagram and where they can check out your YouTube and your podcast and everything like that.
First I want to say I just appreciate the opportunity and to meet you in person for the first time and to really get to understand you and connect. And this has been a great conversation for me as well. It's been a while since I had a good in-person conversation with somebody. So this has been great. And if you guys got anything out of it, first of all, subscribe to her YouTube channel, of course. Follow her on Instagram at Pranzata Music. Yes. Yep.
I think it used to be Pranzata Music, but I think I just changed it. I think I just changed it to Pranzata, right? Now. Right. Yeah.
And if you guys, enjoyed this, I also make music, and you can follow me on Instagram at Onnist Music. That's ONNIST Music. And I also have a YouTube channel that's also Onnist Music, ONNIST Music. So, spread the love around and make sure to drop some comments, weigh in on everything that we talked about. This has been a really good time.
Yeah, it's been an awesome time. And thank you so much for thanking me for having you here. And I thank you so much for coming here.
Yeah, this has been great.
Bye, guys. Have a good night.
Peace.